Hey, how's it going, Ryan?
How's it going, Aaron?
So, Battlefield, it's a thing. May 6th is when it's happening. The announcement for the next Battlefield game.
The future of Battlefield.
We are here playing some Bad Company 2, which is, I don't know, it's my favorite Battlefield game of all time. It's largely because I just really love the way this game is designed and you know, the way that it feels. I think a lot of people, though, like, are old Battlefield 2 fans. There was a lot of Battlefield between... Sorry, I'm just focusing on killing anything. There have been a lot of Battlefields over the years, and people don't really know what to expect from this announcement. It's just not clear what they're going to talk about.
So we're going to be watching Aaron play some Bad Company 2, which I think, yes, is our probably mutually favorite Battlefield game, although I think we appreciate pretty much all of them with certain issues in the later ones. But we'll be talking about the announcement and go into the chat, seeing what people think there, too. What are your favorite Battlefield games? What do you think of the new one? What do you want in the new one? And what are your theories on what we're actually going to get? I'm going to switch us over to the gameplay right about now.
Oh, you missed all that sweet tank.
All right, here we go. We're going to get it.
Yep.
Here we are on this was a late release in the...
Oh, yeah, of course. You cut to it when I die. Hey, I have not played Battlefield in a while. I stepped out late in 4. I went back briefly for the CTE and just wasn't super in love with 4. It just felt like kind of a regurgitation of 3 without making significant changes, which is why we're playing Bad Company today, because this is a game that I love far more. I'm going to just try not die here for a second. Okay, so what are they going to talk about on the 6th? Right now, it's speculation. There's a lot of options. There were rumors. This is just a rumor. There were rumors flying around before that they were going to change the time period. A lot of people have been wanting a World War II Battlefield for a while. I don't know. I'm not sure if people really want World War II. Do you remember everybody played World War II games for over a decade and were just sick to death of them? There was a rumor for a while that there would be a World War I game, which I find unlikely just because World War I would not deliver the attachments and kind of customization that people have come to expect in a Battlefield title. Then there's the probably more likely scenario that we're going to get a... Get it? Nope. There's a more likely scenario that we're going to get...
oh, yeah.
Maybe...
The goal.
2143. There have been Easter eggs in Battlefield 3 Endgame and Battlefield 4 Final Stand that both hinted very strongly that maybe another 21-something was in the works.
DICE has been sneaking the 2142 Easter eggs into the games for a little while now, and it will absolutely not be surprising if that's what we get. But, you know, Aaron, we've talked about this around the office quite a bit. I personally think that the graphics have gotten better, the consoles have gotten better. I would be totally fine with going back to World War II and, you know, replaying some of those, you know, the like Omaha Beach and anything from 1942 would be great to play again. And that's where I would want to go. I think it's been long enough, and honestly, everything else has been doing future stuff lately, and I think, just like you said, there was a period where it was all World War II. Well, now it's all future, and it's like, do we really need more future right now? I'm looking forward to Titanfall 2. I loved the first Titanfall, and, you know, Call of Duty is obviously going in that direction too, and I think it would be kind of classy for DICE to back off and do a little bit more, go back to the past a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd also mentioned that Titanfall, who destroyed our own... What are you doing, people? I mean, they're fighting over the helicopter. I'm not going to say Bad Company 2 didn't have problems. It definitely like hadn't refined the helicopter game at this stage. But I think conceptually these are some of the best maps in the Battlefield series. But anyway, so Ryan, you had said that.
We've definitely got mixed opinions in the chat. We've got Master of the Hero saying no more World War II on Twitch and over on YouTube. We've got Screaming Patriot saying we have no good World War II games on new gen, and I kind of agree with that right now.
I mean, if they're going to do World War II, I think the only thing that they can really offer that hasn't been done already is nobody's really done Battlefield HD World War II. Maybe, like, you mentioned...
We didn't have destruction in 1942, so just adding the destruction. And also the effects. We talked about this earlier, that it wasn't until Battlefield 2 that the sound was there to be shocking. Like, you could be standing next to a tank, and when it fired, there was a ringing in your ears, and you kind of couldn't hear for a second. Like, having that kind of effect, which is now even kind of old, but have that transferred back to World War II, I think would be kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, having it be frightening for a Panzer to come down the street because, like, the Panzer with the current Frostbite sound design and the current level of HD graphics would be very, very different. Like, if you go back and actually look at 1942, I think it was released for free on Origin. I'm not joking when I say it looks like an iPhone game. It literally, like, you forget.
It's been a while.
You forget how primitive those graphics were back then. So if they did go back to World War II, they might have something to offer just because, like, we haven't seen World War II in the level of graphics that Frostbite can do. On the other hand, here's what I would rather have them do.
The photogrammetry.
Yeah. So now that they've done photogrammetry for Star Wars Battlefront, I don't know if
you gonna get your circle strafe on here, Aaron?
Yeah, I don't know if I reversed my controls. Might not go well.
Okay, folks,
I'm not.
Bear with it.
I did tell everybody that I've not played this in a while. I actually need to invert my flight controls. I will apologize to whoever's my co-pilot real quick. I need to land and invert my flight controls.
Okay, well, Aaron's working on inverting his flight controls.
go back to photogrammetry.
Yes, we've gotten the graphics technology has gotten better. I think it's fair to say that between Bad Company 2 and Battlefield 3, oh jeez, there you go.
Bye, helicopter.
At the very least, the controls tightened up, I think.
No, let's talk about photogrammetry and if they did. So let's say they went back and did Vietnam, right?
Okay.
Like if they did not, Bad Company had a really great Vietnam expansion, but if they did Battlefield Vietnam again, now I think that could tick a lot of the boxes. I think a Battlefield Vietnam could get the photogrammetry from Battlefront, and it would look gorgeous. It has asymmetrical warfare. There's some level of customization. It's a place that we haven't been since the Bad Company 2 expansion. I think that would be
which, by the way, was a great expansion.
Yeah. I mean, I think that would be a really cool play if they went with Vietnam. I'm not saying that they will. Oh, I got it. Get. Fire.
Oh, here we go.
He's smart. He bailed out. That was really, I mean, if you were infantry in Bad Company 2 and a helicopter came at you, that was the only way to really do it, was tracer dart.
Oh, yeah. Didn't have multiple opportunities to lock on. Oh, man. It got to a point in Battlefield 4 where it was like, how many different ways could you lock onto a helicopter?
Oh, like, one of the biggest problems with core Battlefield is helicopters are really a pleasure to fly once you get the hang of them, but keeping them in the air for any length of time is damn near impossible. And then the weird thing on that, though, is the players who are really, really good at the game, like, somehow keep them in the air indefinitely. So you've got this weird thing where it's really hard for low-level players to fly the helicopters. They just crash 10 times learning how to do it. But then you've got high-level players who just dominate. Like, the whole air game probably needs a little bit of a remajiggering, if I had to call it anything.
Little remajiggering?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so let's throw it out the chat. What do people want to see in this announcement? Chances are we're going to get, probably, if it follows their usual pattern, we're probably going to get single player. That's usually the first thing they talk about.
Oh, boy, man. I didn't even touch the Battlefield 4 single player. Or Hardline. I played a good chunk of the way through 3, and that was about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who liked the single player out there?
Who thinks the single player has made Battlefield a better game? Because I will fight you.
So far, I'm not seeing much in the chat in the way of support of single player.
I mean, I think just patently it didn't make the game better. Like, I think if anything, they just took budget away from multiplayer. But yeah, so you want to go down the list. These are all the Battlefield games that have been over the years. We should read them off just to refresh people's memory.
Master the Hero on Twitch says, I love the single player in Battlefield 4. So there we go. We've got to vote for it.
What did you love about the single player in Battlefield 4? I know that the graphics were good.
The graphics were good. That's actually true. That's true.
After this, I'll switch to another map. We're just playing Conquest right now, but everybody knows that.
And also on Twitch, there's a 2CS2NV saying Battlefield past, present, and future. You can warp to any battle you want. And you and I have talked about this often on the idea of like a 10-map multiplayer or 12-map that has like 3 of the best from everything from 42 to the present.
I think that would be a smart move on their part. Oh, I totally forgot.
Even if that was just like Battlefield Remastered, whatever they want to call it, like that, you know, you'd have maybe limited loadout expansion possibilities from like era to era, but to have all of them in HD and actually be able to switch between them sort of from match to match, I think would be kind of cool.
Yeah, the way that they did the Halo Remastered, although, you know, without all the problems.
So Jill Valentine on the YouTube chat says single player only matters for Bad Company series. What do you think about that, Aaron?
I totally agree, because Bad Company had personality, and there weren't a lot of other Battlefield games that were anything other than generic military shooter guy doing generic military shooter stuff. Other than that, though, I've always said I was actually really loved Battlefield 3's co-op campaign. I thought that was something special. Particularly, I thought Fire from the Sky was a really cool template for something.
Yeah, that was super
for something
cool.
that could be great. So Fire from the Sky was basically a helicopter assault up a valley, and you fought waves of enemy AI through a series of objectives, and vehicles would come onto the map as you played. Now, I think that if they took that concept into multiplayer, more like Titanfall with minions, that would be incredible. Now, I will admit the way that it actually played out in co-op was a lot of times people were trying to get an unlock that you could only get from flying it. So a lot of people would get spawned into the gunner seat and then bail on the mission.
Oh yeah.
But that wasn't the mission's fault. That was the unlock tree's fault.
That was bad design, is what that was.
So if they're gonna do a campaign, I would just much rather have it be
that sort of style.
Did you see that? He got hit by the. He just got hit by the the fan blade on the wind turbine. That was awesome.
But yeah, I mean that was the other thing that they did towards the end of the Bad Company 2 period. They added Onslaught mode, where they made a co-op players versus bots sort of rush style mode.
I could absolutely see another Battlefield game having minions. I think it would add a lot. You know, one of the weird things about, say, Battlefield 3 Siege of Shanghai that always honestly kind of weirded me out was the fact that there weren't civilians running and fleeing for their lives. I think developers have maybe, I don't know if they've shied away from it for computing power reasons or because they just didn't feel comfortable stomaching like civilians being in the mix. It could be both. But I just really think Battlefield 4's maps felt kind of empty and soulless. And I think having minions, even if it's civilians on those maps or on newer maps, could just give it a level of realism and a level of immersion that it's lacking currently.
Here's an interesting question from McJammy Dodger. Will the player count be more than 64 players in the next one? Now, I know you have feelings about 64 players.
I don't have feelings about 64 players so much as I think every map has an ideal player count. I don't think it's fixed. I don't think that there's any need for there to be 64 unless a map justifies it. So there was a lot of maps in Battlefield 4 that just were scattershot. They just didn't feel like they had good flow to them. And you were always getting shot in the back. And I think part of the reason you were always getting shot in the back was because there were 64 people on maps where it just didn't support 64 people. So I think the answer is there's no right number. There's no one right number. It just depends on how your maps are designed. I would rather have maps that are designed very strong. Where are you? You're right in front of me.
Well, that's actually an interesting point. And when you talk about like the map design factor, I mean, we had a lot of fun last summer playing on PS4 the free-to-play PlanetSide 2.
Yeah.
And that is an example where the maps are absolutely enormous, and having hundreds of players is totally fine because the flow of the battle is sort of spread out.
Yeah, PlanetSide 2 does a great job of channeling people to objectives in a way that is compelling and is I'm totally gonna get sniped. It does it in a compelling fashion. It channels people together in the right ways, so it's not scattershot. People genuinely seem to know what they're after, what they're trying to accomplish, and that's something that I think we lost with some of these 64. I can't get away from this thing. I think we lost that with some of the 64-player maps in Battlefield 4. It was just too many damn people on a map that just didn't justify it. Now, there were some maps that justified 64 people. Refresh my memory, the train map. Somebody help me out here.
Golmud Railway?
Golmud Railway. Golmud Railway was thematically very weak. The train was just a single engine, and it just wasn't exciting, and you weren't fighting on it. But it was a large map. It definitely justified lots of tanks and vehicles. And I think it was one of the maps that supported it. Operation Metro, when they redid it, I still think there's no business for 64 players in Operation Metro. It's just one person cannot make a difference on a map that small with that many people. And it actually gets boring. Like, you're actually in so many firefights so consistently that the pacing is just, it's quite frankly dull. That's how I felt about it. Like, shooting people constantly isn't necessarily a good thing. That's why you and I have been playing a lot of Rainbow Six Siege. It's because Rainbow Six Siege is all about the buildup and the anticipation, and the kills come quickly and they're meaningful. And Battlefield's a different game, but you can still have a similar idea where like, how are these kills meaningful? I just shot like 20 guys in a row. Does that matter? Did I accomplish anything? Did I help with the objectives? That's what you need to ask yourself. Whoa, good shot.
Shot right off the turret.
So yeah, that's a long answer to the question of 64 players. So yeah, if they want to do more players, they could do it like PlanetSide. They could channel it better. I'd be fine with that. But they need to justify it.
I've always thought that one of the things that they used to do, I would say, was that they would justify the objectives. Like, certain vehicles would spawn at objectives. There might be fixed weapons at objectives. In a few cases, I know they did it in 1943, but in a few cases there was like an airstrike that you could call in from an objective. And having capture points in that traditional conquest style that were valuable was something that made a large player count match make sense, because you kind of always knew where you were as a team. If you looked at the map and you knew, okay, well, we're not controlling air support, we're not controlling anti-air, but we are controlling armor. Like, you kind of have a sense of where the map was and where the match was going. But I kind of felt like they moved away from that, starting with Battlefield 3, where there was this sort of attempt to make every map work with every mode, and instead of having the sort of purpose-built maps that we see here, like, this is a rush map that we're looking at right now. Like, it is through and through like a well-designed rush map. And having objectives that seemed senseless was something that really drove me crazy. Like, Caspian Border was like, there was a point where I'm thinking, why am I defending a flag in a ditch? This flag in this ditch doesn't mean anything. and all I'm doing is wasting my time.
Exactly. I think, one thing that the earlier Battlefields nailed better. Die. One of the things that earlier Battlefields nailed better was objectives at bases that were meaningful. Like, this is the tank spawn base. This is the bombing base. This is the base that has the really heavy in place gun. Like, when you took a base, it had meaning. It wasn't just like remade Caspian Border, where it's like, hey, this MCOM is in a ditch. Be excited for this ditch. Like, why would I ever be excited to take that objective? What is at that objective that's meaningful?
There is nothing of value. Yeah, I mean, even, as simple as a game as it was, Battlefield 1943, there was you understood the value of the objective when you went after it. And on Twitch, Goob was asking, is there anything you guys would do to make people concentrate more on the objective? And I think that's what it is. It's having the objective itself have value.
So, one thing that I just always have to point out about this map and in Bad Company in general is destruction is something that we've thrown around a lot, and I feel like people say it to DICE often, but I don't feel like DICE really understands what people mean when they say destruction. And what they mean is, on this map, like...
Look at the ground right here.
Look at the ground. Like, look at the town. You know where this match is at based on how just effed up this map is, right?
That's the truth. I mean, in a lot of games, my pet peeve is when I start my first match of the night, I end up at the tail end of a match that is about to end. But one of the things that I love about, especially Bad Company 2, was that as soon as you spawned, you knew the score. Like,
yeah,
the terrain is deformed, buildings are on fire, there's nothing left. You kind of know what's going on just from looking at it. You don't have to look at a scoreboard. You don't have to go to a pause menu. You can just look at the environment and say, "Oh yeah, this is pretty messed up."
And it's not just destruction for destruction's sake. It's like dropping bridges, it's blowing up houses, it's messing up sniper nests. I mean, it's destruction that changes the way a round is played. That's what, when everybody says they want destruction in a Battlefield game, that's what they actually mean. They don't mean the pretty, like, surface... Oh! They don't mean the pretty surface level gloss.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you ever dropped a bridge out from underneath a tank on Wake Island, you totally understand the value of that kind of destruction.
Get some! Don't die. Get some and don't die. Oop, I did not switch to the right gun there. So yeah, throw it back out to the chat. Like, what else do people want to see in this announcement? Because I'm curious, I mean, that's what we want to see. But I will say that they are trying to please a lot of different people. Over the years, they have really expanded the series.
Yeah, I mean, the chat's actually very diverse, and I think that's something that, in its way, I don't know if you would say it was totally a good thing or totally a bad thing, but, between Bad Company, between the newer Battlefields...
2142, Vietnam, and then Hardline. Like, that, those are completely different groups of people,
and
right?
also, late in the game, the introduction of Team Deathmatch, which we didn't really see until Battlefield 3. A lot of people will, I think, rightfully criticize them for trying to emulate Call of Duty at a certain point to expand their audience. I don't think you can blame them for trying to expand their audience, but it definitely seemed to water down the Battlefieldness.
And again, like, the biggest problem is that suddenly you have to please a lot of people. Where's the fight?
And also, I would also argue that there wasn't an effort to unify the audience. Like, Hardline was released, but they continued to support Battlefield 4 throughout the entire run of Hardline. I know on PC the Hardline community really shrank pretty quickly. And if for no other reason, because Battlefield 4 was still supported.
Yeah, it's interesting. They handed over support of Battlefield 4 to DICE LA, who actually, I think it's genuinely agreed on by most major YouTubers, did a fantastic job fixing up that game.
For me personally, it was kind of a too little, too late kind of a thing. just didn't have the patience to wait for that game to be improved. Especially if you compare it to, at the end of the day, Battlefield 3 turned out pretty well. And if you look at this game, I mean, this was so well supported throughout its entire run. I mean, they gave you purpose-built maps, and for free, they repurposed existing maps every once in a while and kept the game fresh. Let's see. There's a little talk in the chat mentioning. I see a mention from Synax808 of Star Wars Battlefront as a failed attempt of Battlefield 5. Oh, sorry. Wait, wasn't Star Wars Battlefront a failed attempt of Battlefield 5?
I think I think Battlefront was a failed attempt at marketing. I think it's kind of funny. We were talking about this the other day. One of the early trailers of Battlefront was a dude playing with a stormtrooper in the snow, and I think oddly enough that was the most accurate representation of what we ended up getting. Was what they meant was it wasn't supposed to be the authentic wasn't supposed to be the authentic Star Wars experience. It was supposed to be the authentic Star Wars toy experience, like you playing with Star Wars toys in your bedroom. that is what it ended up feeling like to me. Was like when you used to sit in your bedroom and go pew pew pew, play with your Ewok village. That is exactly what they delivered, and it wasn't a Battlefield game. I think the problem is people saw DICE. They saw DICE and they thought Battlefield, but I don't know. I don't know who allowed that perception to continue. I don't think it was a Battlefield game. I think it was an arcade.
And it almost seems like it was never
shooter.
Supposed to be.
Yeah. Battlefield over the years has had some pretty bad marketing. I mean, again, I think the lowest point in Battlefield marketing was
Levolution.
There was a time when they actually did a whole entire TV spot on jet ramming and how great jet ramming is. They just completely out of touch with their community. So yeah, I think marketing's never been the best on Battlefield. I think they got themselves some pretty graphics and
I love this map, but that inbounds border is way too conservative on the left side there. Sorry. You walked out of bounds for a second.
Yeah.
So Mr. Joshua on YouTube asks, how does GameSpot know it's Battlefield 5? The answer is we don't.
Yeah, so I don't know, everybody's talking about it's Battlefield 5, but that's just a placeholder. There's a decent chance it'll be a 2140, what would it be at this point, 3. There's a good chance. I mean, I doubt it'll be a Bad Company after Hardline, because Hardline didn't really land with the core Battlefield audience.
I might be totally wrong about this, but I mean, I think that on some levels, if it was a sort of for the fans game, we would be getting Bad Company 3 with full destruction, and it would be that. It would be sort of picking up where this game left off. I think that if we look at Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, there's definitely signs of going towards the future with, in some of the DLC and in Easter eggs in Battlefield 3.
Yeah. Again, both Endgame, the last DLC in Battlefield 3, and Final Stand, the last DLC in Battlefield 4, heavily hinted at another 2140-something title. We're just calling it Battlefield 5 as a placeholder. The actual marketing material just says Battlefield reveal event. So that means it can be anything.
So Ease1235 on YouTube has actually what I think is a very fair question, which is, what would be the difference between Bad Company 3 and Battlefield 5? The storyline? I think that's actually kind of a good question, because I think when, as fans, when we say we want Bad Company 3, I feel like there's a lot of things bundled up in that idea. There is this idea of, when it comes to single player, it's maybe a campaign that doesn't take itself as seriously and gives you a little bit more creativity of what you can do within the confines of a mission. When we're talking about what it means for the multiplayer experience, I think we're talking about purpose-built maps that are designed for their game mode. A rush map is a rush map, a conquest map is a conquest map, and then of course we're talking about this level of destruction that, is utterly devastating.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of more personality, more destruction. I personally liked all the crazy filters in Bad Company because I thought it gave it personality. I know some people thought that Battlefield 3 went too far with the, what was it, the green tones?
You got to get out of that tank.
Yeah, I need a good tank crew. Yep.
Uh-oh.
This is not gonna
I
go
don't
well.
know. I think you're in trouble here.
I don't think my team's gonna win this rush. But yeah, I mean, the reason that I love Rush so much, and I've always have loved Rush, is just it tells a story. I think it tells a story every time. It takes you through a map that has different areas. Every area tells a different story, has different types of combat. Some of it's close, some of it's long range, some of it's urban. You know, some of it's not. And I think ultimately that is what was appealing about Rush. And I want maps in Battlefield again that tell a story. You know, just conceptually on some level. Not just there's a train that got lost in a field.
Well, and that's the thing, is that I think that it's the...
Wait,
you just lit up your own guy there. There are changes in terrain, changes in structure, changes in advantage for the defenders and the attackers from one set of crates to the next. And all of those things mean that each time you play the map, it's going to play out a little bit differently. And each time it plays out a little bit differently, it basically is telling a different story. And that's what makes it possible to keep playing, you know, Bad Company 2 over and over again.
Now, I don't know, we've talked a lot about Rush. Let's talk about what makes a good Conquest map, because there's the whole original Battlefield 2 crowd that would love nothing more than just fantastic Conquest, right? So I think one of the things that makes a good Conquest map is, going back to an earlier conversation we were having with Wake Island, is meaningful Conquest capture points. Conquest capture points that, like, check out how like messed up the middle of the map is now. This is all look, this is all no man's land.
Now it's no man's land.
Right? So that destruction's meaningful.
Yeah.
It has changed the way this is being played. Sorry. So Wake Island, there was one of the conquest points was the airbase, and that is really meaningful because you need that airbase to get the airplanes, right? Some of them were tank bases. That's meaningful because you need the tanks. So I think what they could do to go back to really good conquest are just that. Here's the airbase. Here's the tank base. You know, I would love if they go further and limit ammo on tanks and say, here's the ammo cache for tanks, and here's the airplanes have to land and refuel every once in a while or something that would keep people who are really good from destroying the map constantly. But yeah, like, I think that's what makes the best conquest maps are not just here's a ditch, go capture the ditch. It's here's this powerful gun emplacement.
This map.
You want this, the night maps, yeah.
Okay, so one of my fondest memories of this game was I played this map at, I want to say, maybe 3 in the morning. I was on the defending side. There were 3 of us on the team, and there was a rotating cast of maybe 2 or 3 people on the other team over the course of 90 minutes on the first set of crates. And we were just sniping on a ridge line, and we completely leveled this forest with the mortar strikes. And, well, okay, that was fun, but the main thing is that you can really clear out this entire forest if you have the time to do it.
What you have just described is back to the meaningful destruction idea that we're talking about.
So there are a couple things in chat that I want to address. One is, and this is something we've talked about amongst ourselves many times, Outcast Cowboys Z420 asks, do you think they'll add day to night or weather changing? And I think we kind of both agree that would be a good thing. If for no other reason than going from just the replayability of a map. We get a little bit of this in Rainbow Six Siege, where there's day and night.
I don't think they've gone far enough. So, like, in the original Rainbow Six Siege... Oh, he's going to die from a grenade. In the original Rainbow Six Siege trailer, it was more than just day and night. You would go in at night, and the lights would, like, destruct and flicker and create confusion. The problem with these types of night maps are that they don't really have much meaning. You can basically see as far as you can in a day map. So it's more equivalent to when people who do film production shoot day for night
Right.
than actual meaningful. This is dark. You really do need to use. Now this is reversed. It's funny. I flipped the helicopter controls, but now it also flipped this. You need meaningful day for night, not just kind of fake day for night.
Well, I feel like in some cases they did okay. I mean, I thought in Battlefield 3 Tehran Highway was good, but I mean, mainly the thing is playing the same, to me, playing the same maps day or night or different weather. Like, I know that in Battlefield 4 there was like a little bit of, you know, what was it, Dawnbreaker started at night and it became day over the course of the map.
Yeah.
Like, that was kind of cool, but I like the idea of, you know, before the match begins and you're, you know, changing your loadout or whatever, like, you don't yet know what you're in for. Like, you don't know that it's going to be nighttime, daytime. It might be raining, it might be snowing, like, visibility might be bad, visibility might be good. And that completely changes things. I mean, you know, if it's foggy, you can run a long way in the open before you might get hit. But if it's broad daylight, then you're, you know, sniper bait. And on any given map, having these kinds of changes would improve the longevity, I think. Aaron is intent to survive this house breach. What else do we have in the chat? Oh, so Master the Hero on Twitch was asking, what did you think of Operation Outbreak? I personally didn't play it, but Aaron, you did.
Refresh my memory.
This is the community map, and the reason why I bring this up is, or the reason I want to call attention to this question is because not so much that there was a community influenced map or whatever, but more to the fact that this series, in my opinion, is the reason we got out of the World War II rut, because of mods and the modern combat mod for 1942 sort of changed things, in my opinion. And I think the idea of involving the community more and maybe even having community actually mod created maps would be a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I can't fault Dice LA for trying to work with the community to come up with a cool map. That I thought, now that I remember Operation Outbreak, it was the one with the waterfall. I do think they missed the epic parachute jump, which I don't understand why ever since Battlefield 3 we haven't got an epic parachute jump, because the epic parachute jump was goddamn epic. And I think the community suggested that epic parachute drop. But no, overall, I think it was a great jungle map, and it proves that they can do jungle. People had originally requested urban, and they said it just basically takes too much budget to do urban, which that's why I'd rather have them not have a single-player campaign and just spend their budget on urban maps. Yeah, it was cool. Some of their best maps, though, I have to say, is just when DICE went back to Battlefield 2 and redid Wake Island or redid Dragon Valley. Those were all recent ones. Like, a lot of their good stuff has been regurgitations of old content. It means that, I don't know, what that says to me is actually what they should probably be doing is just releasing an HD remake of Battlefield 2. I think if they were smart and if they liked money, they would just do that. I like, even if they just did it on top of everything else, I just can't imagine people wouldn't buy it. I mean, you'd play an HD remake, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I definitely would. But, you know, I'm not that picky.
I mean, there's a huge fan base for Battlefield 2. People love that game. All right, Sally forth.
Let's see. Marley J in the Twitch chat says the Vietnam DLC for this never got the praise that it deserved. Do you
man.
agree that it never got the praise that it deserved? I mean, I would say that the awesomeness that it was not repeated again, and I think that was horribly unfortunate. I mean, I was hoping that the Vietnam DLC was like sort of a proof of concept that you could have
DLC.
a thematically different DLC that really sort of revitalized playing the game, and that was also like compartmentalized. Like you would just go and play Battlefield Bad Company 2 Vietnam. You know, it wasn't mixed in with the other maps.
Oh, I mean, Vietnam was I think it was hands down my favorite DLC in all of Battlefield, just because of what you said. It just completely was different. Everything about it was different. The guns played differently. They didn't have sights, which was interesting because. So actually, I don't know if you remember, but in Bad Company 2, you had to pick between a gun sight and an ability. So suddenly you could just focus on your abilities and not worry so much about it. It was just, it was one of the strongest thematically driven DLCs. And it felt like, it was a remake of Battlefield Vietnam, which was a full game.
Yep, we've got the Mr. Gromit in the YouTube chat saying, there's too many games that do futuristic warfare.
I mean, that's what you were saying earlier, is you just kind of feel like Titanfall did it, and it did it well, and it doesn't really need repeating.
I mean, I think that there's maybe always a little bit of room for a little bit more of everything out there, but I don't feel like, I need that from Battlefield right now. I think that's the thing, is that for my sort of confidence to be restored in this franchise, I want to see what it does best. And I think what it's done best is sort of what we're seeing right now as you're playing. For futuristic, games, what Titanfall did really well was create a new sort of feeling of movement with all of the parkour stuff, and then having that transitioning between infantry and Titan and adding the bots, like all of these things that it did that were actually kind of novel, to me made it totally appropriate that it was a futuristic game. I don't feel like just changing from, traditional weapons to energy weapons, and otherwise, maybe adding a planet or a different type of vehicle really is enough for me to feel like I'm playing something that's futuristic. I think having mechanics that feel futuristic. Now that was a nice RPG snipe. Is more valuable.
Sorry, I got distracted by that awesome RPG snipe. Kind of proud of myself, not gonna lie. Now I'm gonna go get killed. God, this game just felt so good. That's what I love about this game. It just feels good. Like, it's a game that just has a personality. It knows what it wants to be. You can bring down these buildings. Like, if I bring down this building, it'll kill all of these guys. You could run in as a like a C4 sniper and just get in there and like blow out a building from underneath the enemies. It just is like an incredible thing that we just haven't seen. I mean, we've seen that destruction in Battlefield 4, but there's never a reason for these guys to all be hanging out on a rooftop like this, right? Like, why would anybody in Battlefield 4 be on one of these rooftops? So much smoke and debris. just shit going down.
Oh. Got like a whole squad over there.
Oh. Ran out of bullets. That's always a good thing. Yeah, I mean, there were buildings that could be dropped in Battlefield 4, but there was never really a reason for people to be on those buildings. Except with the one exception being Siege of Shanghai, which I thought was cool in concept, but nobody ever thought about what happened when the building came down. Like, hey, this is awesome until the building comes down, and then it's not as good of a map.
Then there's a garbage pile in the middle of the map.
Yeah, like, why was that compelling? Oop, don't disarm the MCOM. Don't disarm the MCOM.
So Alex Sutton in the YouTube chat says, I may be controversial in saying this, but I really liked all the customization in Battlefield 4. It allowed lots of specialization. I actually agree with that. I totally liked being able to sort of kit things out differently. But I do also recognize that sort of got away from what the game we're playing right now did, which was have such class-specific abilities and traits that it was balanced by class instead of by weapon. Like, you know, the class in this game that can bring people back to life is the class that has the machine gun, which is the most difficult to control.
Also, the recon class having the mortar strike kept other recon classes from camping, and also gave the recon class like a more meaningful role in the game other than just standing on a hillside. And also, recon class should have always had more credit for spotting, because they should be getting huge points for spotting, because that's what they're supposed to be doing, right? That's what recon does. And them never getting any significant point bonuses for spotting always kind of boggled my mind. Like, you have to think about the classes in terms of what a class is supposed to do, and then reward players for doing it, you know?
And to their credit, I think that DICE did make some efforts after the release of Battlefield 3 to balance the point system a little bit more. They did make some efforts. Like, if I remember specifically, they increased point score for suppression as an example of that.
Suppression was controversial.
Suppression was very controversial, and I know that you and I do not see eye to eye on suppression.
That's fine. I mean, Battlefield can be different things to different people. In terms of customization, though, yeah, like, I don't think that's ever a bad thing. I think that letting players turn characters into their characters it's a good thing. It's always a good thing.
Yeah, like they opened up the carbines and the DMRs to every class, as well as the shotguns, right? I think that was correct.
So they can't.
It's been a little while.
They can't get in here and destroy this building. So just note what they're trying to do now is just destroy the building from a distance, which again was a way to keep matches moving in this game.
Yes.
To keep people from getting bogged down at checkpoints. Because
Yes.
if you couldn't capture the MCOM, you could blow it up.
Yeah, you could destroy the MCOM from afar. That was a legit strategy.
And again, it comes back to good flow. Like, that's what you're looking for in these games, is games that channel players through their maps in meaningful ways and fun ways. But yeah, Battlefield 4, as much as I didn't like the map design in Battlefield 4, I would never argue that. I think the controls were smoother and better, and I think the customization was better. Like, there were a lot of aspects of Battlefield 4 that were actually improvements on Battlefield 3, just not the map design. The map design, I just didn't think it had any strong ideas of what its maps wanted to do or be. And that was my biggest problem with it.
The one that I liked...
Also, the guns got a little too friendly.
The one that I mostly liked conceptually was Flood Zone, where, you know, if the dam got taken down, then the map would actually flood with water. I thought that was a cool idea. I wouldn't say that it was necessarily very well executed at the end of the day, depending on the game mode, but I thought that was a cool idea.
Oh, just lost the MCOM because of destruction. And everybody's dead. Everybody be less dead. Nope. Get up. Get up. Why won't you live? Oh, okay, now everybody's dying.
All right, a quick shout out to Yardy78 for saying love Valparaiso and Bad Company 2. Just gotta say right on. Right on.
I love all of Bad Company 2. Just really, this one was the game for me.
This game is full of so many great maps.
Plus, I got an MG. Come on. How can you not love an MG?
I do have to say, though, I did like the addition of bipods. They didn't always work well, but the idea, it was a good idea. Another good idea that didn't work perfectly.
Oh, I love bipods. Bipods are great. They allowed support class to lay down recon accurate long range fire with a heavy barrel attachment. It was a genuinely great idea. And again, I think Battlefield 4 actually, because of all the support it got from DICE LA later on, does have a big following right now, because they did fix a lot of the problems, and they did a great job at it. And I think they made that game about as good as it could be. You know what? I mean, I even liked Hardline. I'm just gonna say that out loud. I liked Hardline.
What?
No.
Oh, come on. So, okay, the game's not perfect.
Oh yeah, Bad Company 2 is not perfect by far.
A lot of things were improved in later editions when it comes to immediate gameplay.
Look, I liked Hardline. I think the problem with Hardline was that it just didn't have enough content, and after 2 betas, people had already played it by the time it released, right? Like, Hardline had been done because it didn't have enough content. It had been done by the time it came out. But the guys over at Visceral genuinely added a lot to Battlefield. They added much faster vehicles. They actually fixed the sound through Floor's bug. That was them. They added really fun, like 1 in 10,000 animations that just kind of brought the Bad Company style humor back into the game. There was a lot of...
Fair enough. I think that's fair enough.
Like,
although I think, you and I both kind of burnt out on that game a little bit more quickly than we did on these previous incarnations anyway.
And again, I think that's just because there wasn't enough content. And I think, later on the game just recognized that its audience, M60, Thug Life, I think later on the game embraced their Call of Duty crowd too much, and that's why they ended up turning off a lot of their Battlefield fans, because... Battlefield people want meaningful gunfights. They don't necessarily want gunfights that just are non-stop, I don't know, like just point-blank range fests, I guess, would be the best way to put it.
So I think we don't have a ton of time left, and I think we should talk about, what we think would be some positive things for Battlefield 5 or whatever it is. But I'm just going to call out one more comment before we talk about that, which is Chris A. says, Ryan and Aaron, Bad Company 3, games that last 20 minutes or games that last 1 to 2 hours? What do you feel about match time? Because I really liked, last summer playing PlanetSide 2 a bit, and I liked that it was sort of like one long match. And some of my favorite experiences and memories from playing previous games were games that went abnormally long amounts of times, and that includes times where there was a low enough population that ticket bleed was slow, and other times where when we had custom servers, the tickets were cranked up to max, or the time was cranked up to max. What do you think, Aaron? Do you prefer a short match or something medium or something long?
Are we talking about in an ideal world or how much time I actually have in a night? Because realistically, I've got an hour and that's it. I'm a family man. I got kids and a wife who I got to make not feel neglected and also be a gamer. So I got an hour. But the most memorable games I've ever played was like a 2-hour round of obliteration where I was afraid the server was going to crash, and I ended up winning. Once or twice we told the other team, look, like, we're all afraid we're going to lose our progress. Just take the bomb and go to ours and let you have it. But I forgot that I had put a bunch of a bunch of mines in a canal, and so I blew up their boat and then grabbed it. It probably pissed them off with a helicopter and won the match. So, like, that was the most memorable I've ever played. So the answer is... custom servers. That's the answer. Let people have their custom servers right away. Don't wait on it, and let them tell you how much time they have to play.
All right, Caleb in the YouTube chat is giving us a little heat for not talking enough about the new game. So let's switch it over for the last few minutes here. I think that if we look back over the last few installments of the series, that for as much as you and I even have complained from time to time, I think there have been a lot of good things. And we like the direction that customization has gone. We'd like to see them roll back the way they handle destruction, I think. In terms of time period, the hint right now is that it's going to be future. Do you feel good about future, or where do you want to go?
I would rather have Vietnam, to be honest. I think photogrammetry in Battlefront was gorgeous on Endor, and I think that in Battlefield would be incredible if it's not at the expense of like that kind of this. See this what I'm looking at right now? If you can do photogrammetry without this type of destruction, I'm sorry, with this type of destruction, then that is exactly what I want. If you can't, then screw photogrammetry. I don't care if it looks that good. But yeah, I would rather have Vietnam than feature setting. Asymmetric maps, meaningful classes and weapons, and you could get that in a 21. What would be at this point 43? But
oh man, and a lot of guys going down around you.
as you've put it already, near future's been kind of done to death. And
I feel like
we're gonna get a Titanfall 2 at some point, which I think does near future or far future better than just about anything I've ever seen. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we need a 2143. How about your thoughts, Ryan?
I basically feel the same way. I mean, I'm not necessarily totally opposed, but I don't also have a ton of confidence that future is what I want to see from this developer. I think that where they have shined is in in historical and modern combat. Although I know there are a lot of big fans of 2142, and that game does exist. But in terms of the new game, I'm hoping that they do more with mode-specific maps and purpose-built maps. We haven't seen that in a while. They've been trying to fit all of the game modes into all of the maps, and I think the Battlefield 3, 4, and Hardline all suffered from that. It just certain modes don't work on certain maps. Something else that I would like to see that I was a big fan of in Titanfall was a mixed mode playlist. Playing one mode on a constant cycle of the same maps over and over again, to me, was actually kind of boring. Especially since DICE has a penchant for creating playlists on their official servers that are identical and never change up the map order. And having something that was more random and unpredictable was actually really cool.
So why don't you read off just real quick, and then we'll end our stream. Read off all the Battlefield games that have been so far, and have people in the chat say just if they had to pick one of those, which would they?
Okay.
Which one would they pick for the remake?
And
or not? Sorry, for the remake. For the next one.
So now I noticed that you don't have heroes on here.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And I'm also noticing that on some levels I just want to say just to get it out of my system that I think that Plants vs Zombies
is the best Battlefield game.
Is an excellent Battlefield game. Okay, so here we go from the top: 1942, Vietnam, Battlefield 2. 2142, Bad Company, 1943, Bad Company 2, Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, and Hardline. So that's the full list. I'm seeing a lot of Bad Company 1. I'm seeing Battlefield 2 in the chat.
Granata Bratislava.
Got some 1942 call out too.
42 was a great arcade, how did I not kill that guy? Was 42 was it 42 or no 43 was the more arcadey one that they did, but it was fantastic. It was arcade in Battlefield fashion.
Definitely a lot of call outs for Battlefield 2. I mean, Battlefield 2 on a lot of levels I think was, the
one that introduced everybody to this type of
it did
combat.
And I mean, my only issue with it was that I feel like their decision to walk away from mod tools was not ideal. I think there was so much creativity in the mods for 1942 that I kind of wish that would come back.
I swear this guy I've shot 5 times.
I definitely see some 2142 in the chat. I see a 1943 in the chat. I see some random numbers that aren't Battlefield games.
I mean, would 2142 just Would that just end up being Battlefront, but the Battlefront game that people wanted?
That's an interesting question. I wonder if that would be the case.
If
I mean, people in the chat, like, would you expect or hope that 2142 would kind of be what Battlefront wasn't?
Because that's all I wanted Battlefront to be. I wanted Battlefront to be the 2143, you know, that we wanted. I just wanted it to be Star Wars themed. And they had, you know, walkers and everything that would be in that. We just ended up with a really arcadey game. Like a really arcadey, like kind of shallow game. I don't know, what do you think about Vietnam? I know a lot of people say World War II. Why or why not Vietnam?
Me, personally, I feel like we did it recently enough. But maybe not. There's definitely some people who would like to see, just like what we talked about earlier in the stream, you know, some just HD like remake.
Yeah, I think an HD remake regardless of Battlefield 2 would be a very smart decision on DICE's part. I mean, again, like, I don't know, do you hate money?
Yeah, I mean, look, the Battlefield Vietnam expansion for this game was, I think, 3 or 4 maps, and they reskinned everything with new weapons, all this, blah, blah, blah. Like, I would take that. I would take a full game that had, like, 4 of those modules.
Oh,
no.
And, whoa! I tracer darted it, and it just came right for me.
Well, that's one strategy.
He's on the other side of the sand dune. Did we get him? Yes, we got him.
So let's see. Suzanne Christiansen in the chat says North versus South Korea. I think we've talked about this before. That has not come up as a Battlefield game. We have not seen the American War in Korea before, and
True, there was.
I am totally in favor of that. Honestly, I think, you know, you get it's not replaying all the same, you know, World War II maps. I mean, World War II has way more famous battles. I mean, I think I only really know about the Chosin Reservoir campaign in Korea, so I wouldn't be able to recognize much beyond that, and maybe landing at Incheon or something like that. But I would be totally in favor of doing that conflict as well, since it's, by the way, you know, tragically underreported or under talked about in, you know, at least American war history.
I mean, one of the interesting parts about Korean War is actually Americans were vastly under-equipped, but they still had better stuff than the North did. Yeah, Chosin Reservoir.
The Chinese.
Sorry, than the Chinese did. Yeah, like, we actually fought a war with China, if nobody told you that. If nobody covered that in history class. The United States literally fought a full-scale war with full armies against China. That happened. Whoa, is that new? I don't know. I don't know if I've seen that before.
Seen what? I missed it.
And newsflash, we lost the first round real bad.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was a tug-of-war territory.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's too close to home for people. But sorry, Homefront is kind of, you know, in a fantastical near future sense, sort of doing that.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Also, you know, we might actually have that war, so that might be a little too close to home.
Alrighty, so I think we're about ready to wrap this up. Maybe, let's see, you guys still have plenty of tickets on the attacker side there. I don't know. We can try and wrap out this round, or
I mean, I'll keep going. I'll keep going as long as people want to talk Battlefield, because I have loved Battlefield for a long time, and again, I kind of soured on 4, and I'd like to come back to the series. I want to be hopeful. I will be completely honest that, you know, Battlefront ended up not being... Whoa, it was a double shot. Do you see that? He got both of us in one.
Dang.
Good shot, dude.
Man, that that sniper rifle was my weapon of choice always in this game.
We need to talk about good sportsmanship. I think that's something that's been kind of missing in gaming now for a while. Like people dropping out because they're losing. That's just like old school. Like just don't be a sore loser. Go back and remember what it was like when you played high school sports. Or maybe I don't know. Maybe you're still in high school, but yeah, we need to have a return back to good sportsmanship in video games where people treat it like a sport. Like you're playing against other human beings. If they're better than you, then they're better than you, you know? And if you're better than them, you're better than them. But I've been seeing a lot in Siege lately where people just act like real sort of losers when they get killed in a game. You're playing a shooter. Would you get, in soccer, if someone scores a goal on you, like, their skill was better than yours, and you should be gracious about that. So if there's one thing I'd like to see in the next Battlefield, it would be a return to good sportsmanship.
Don Yassen in the GameSpot Twitch chat says, sportsmanship in war?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you want to talk sportsmanship in real war, it's called the Geneva Conventions. There's shit that you cannot do to people, to other human beings.
Okay, so I'll add this as something that I would like to see. I would like to see DICE be willing to do and actually commit to asymmetric teams.
Tag it? Tag it?
Oh, you got it.
Oh, that thing's tagged like a Christmas tree.
I mean, we used to have it, different weapons, different factions, and then eventually it was everybody had to be able to have access to the same stuff. I'm kind of against it. I liked having asymmetric factions in the Battlefield games. I would definitely want to bring that back.
Yeah, asymmetry is nice. I think it causes you to be a more tactical player.
Yeah, I mean, because my thing is let's say that one side is more technological than the other, and another one has, let's say, other terrain advantages. Like, you just have to work out as a team how to play your faction and work it out.
I mean, if I remember right, the way that Vietnam handled it was, the Vietnam side, the Vietnamese side, or NVA side, whatever. Didn't they have like trench systems, and they had some really cool routes? Like they had cooler routes than the Americans did, but the Americans had
definitely on some of the rush matches for sure.
Like it's conferring advantage through not just firepower; it's conferring advantage through map design and other means. That guy's controlling the helicopter, and I badly want to drive out there and knife him. I wonder if I can steal a vehicle.
All right, this match is winding down to the last 12 tickets.
So check it out, by the way, even though this is a rush match, like look at this map. This map has a story. The story is it's like, it's a place where they break down ships, or it's like a derelict shipyard. This probably used to be a bay and the water ran out. Like there's a concept to this map. And look, like I know where we are in this match because the hilltop base that I started on is completely jacked up. It's almost completely destroyed.
Okay, with the last 7 tickets, we're going to start signing off here. I want to thank everybody for joining us for the stream today. Make sure you follow, like, subscribe, and what have you in all of the appropriate places. Subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Twitch. Come back for more streams. We have a live show every Tuesday at 2 p.m. That's our talk show hosted by Danny O'Dwyer. You want to check that out. Super cool. And we'll be covering more of the Battlefield coming up. May 6th is the announcement at 1 p.m. Pacific. And we'll have plenty of coverage for that for you guys next week.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us for this Battlefield 5 stream. We'll just put
quote
quotes,
unquote,
quote unquote.
5.
And we'll find out on May 6th. Thanks, everybody.
All right, thanks a lot.